My name is Evelyn, and 6 months ago I got divorced. I was raised by my mom and stepdad since I was 2. My biological father was never in the picture, but my stepdad has been my real dad, in every way that matters. When I was 3, they had my sister Daisy. She was a cute kid, always following me around and wanting to be included in everything I did. Daniel and I started dating in high school when I was 16. He was handsome, charming, and everyone liked him. What I didn't realize then was how much Daisy had a crush on him too. She was only 13, but she would always find excuses to hang out in my room when he came over or ask about him constantly. After graduation, Daniel got accepted to a college in another state. I decided to stay local since I had a partial scholarship to our city college. We tried the long-distance thing for a few months, but it fizzled out. I was heartbroken, but threw myself into my studies. By 25, I had a good job at a marketing firm and was living in the house I inherited from my paternal grandfather. It wasn't huge, but it was mine. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a nice yard. I'd fixed it up with my own money and was proud of what I'd accomplished. Then one day, Daniel walked back into my life. He just showed up at my office with that same smile that had made my heart race in high school. "Evelyn," he said, leaning against my office doorway. "Bet you never thought you'd see me again." I was shocked. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" I moved back, got a job offer I couldn't refuse. He explained, though he was vague about the details. "More importantly, I never stopped thinking about you. Within weeks, we were dating again. It felt like no time had passed. He was still charming, still made me laugh, and the chemistry between us was as strong as ever." When he proposed, 6 months later, I said yes without hesitation. The wedding was small and fast. My parents seemed happy for me, though. Daisy was weirdly quiet throughout the ceremony, thought she was just being her typical moody self. The first few months of marriage were good, but slowly I started noticing things. Daniel had only a part-time job at a local electronics store. When I asked about the amazing job offer that brought him back to town, he was evasive. Before we were married, I thought it was sweet how he'd surprise me at work and take me to lunch. After we got married, I realized he was free to do that because he barely worked, while I was putting in 50-hour weeks. He was networking with friends at bars or playing video games at home. One night after he came home with a $300 designer shirt, I confronted him. "How can you spend that kind of money when you're hardly contributing to our expenses?" I asked. "Come on, babe, you make plenty for both of us," he said with a shrug. "Besides, I need to look good for these business meetings. I'm making connections that will pay off big." What business meetings with who about what? I pressed. "You wouldn't understand the details," he said dismissively. That was the first of many arguments. Eventually, I cut him off financially. "You want spending money? Earn it," I told him. To my surprise, Daniel started working more hours and coming home late, taking on extra shifts, he explained. I was cautiously optimistic that he was finally growing up. Then came the business trip to Chicago. I was supposed to be gone for 3 days, but we wrapped up early. I didn't tell Daniel I was coming home a day early. I wanted to surprise him. The surprise was all mine when I walked into our bedroom and found him with a woman I'd never seen before. They were in our bed, the bed I had paid for. The woman grabbed her clothes and ran to the bathroom. I just stood there, too shocked to even cry. "Baby, we can work through this," Daniel said, reaching for me. I stepped back. "No, we're done. I want a divorce." His expression changed instantly. "Think about what you're doing. You really want to be a divorced woman at your age?" "People will talk." I laughed in his face. "It's the 21st century, Daniel. Half the women in this country are divorced. I'd rather be divorced than married to a cheater." When I told my parents about Daniel's infidelity and my decision to divorce him, I was shocked by their response. Marriage has ups and downs. My mom said, "You can't just give up at the first problem." "The first problem," I repeated in disbelief. "He was having sex with another woman in my bed." My dad shook his head. "Marriages go through crisis, Evelyn. You work through them." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I'm not working through infidelity." The divorce is happening. I thought the divorce would be simple. We had no kids, and the house was mine before we married. But Daniel had other plans. He filed for alimony, claiming I earned more and his quality of life would suffer after divorce. In court, he painted himself as a devoted husband. I sacrificed my career opportunities to be with Evelyn, he told the judge with a straight face. I worked part-time so I could maintain our home-cooked dinner and be there for her when she got home from work. I nearly laughed out loud at the blatant lies. Thankfully, I had evidence, lots of it. Screenshots of explicit text between him and multiple women that I'd found on our shared laptop testimony. From neighbors who'd seen different women entering our house when I was at work. Even security camera footage from a neighbor's doorbell camera showing Daniel and his friend entering our house repeatedly. The judge saw through his act. The divorce was granted, and his alimony request was denied. I was free. My parents were cold when I told them the news. "It's your life," my mom said. "But I think you're making a mistake." I didn't care. I was done with Daniel, done with the lies. When my boss offered me a 6-month assignment opening a new branch office in the neighboring state, I jumped at the chance. It was perfect timing to get away and start fresh. Before I left, I gave my house keys to my parents. "Just check on the place occasionally," I asked them. "Make sure everything's okay." 3 months into my business trip, I was finally feeling like myself again. The new office was coming together nicely, and I'd made some friends among my new coworkers. We'd go out for drinks after work sometimes, and I'd started to forget about the disaster my marriage had become. My apartment was small but comfortable, and I was enjoying the independence, no one to answer to. No one's messes to clean up, just me and my thoughts. For the first time in years, I felt free. Then my phone rang. It was my mom. "Evelyn, honey, how are you?" Her voice had that fake cheerful tone she uses when she's about to drop a bomb. "I'm good, Mom. The project's going well. What's up?" There was a pause. "I have some news. Daisy got married 2 weeks ago." I nearly dropped my coffee mug. What, I didn't even know she was dating anyone. Another pause, longer this time. "She married Daniel." The world stopped spinning for a second. "Daniel?" "My ex-husband, Daniel. Now, Evelyn, don't get upset. Daisy has always loved him, even when you were dating him in high school. She couldn't do anything about it when you were married. But after the divorce, she decided to marry the cheating scumbag. I kicked out of my life. Are you serious right now?" My mother's voice hardened. Daniel explained everything to us. There was no cheating. He was just having tea with a work colleague, and you jumped to conclusions because you were jealous. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Tea in our bed, naked, Mom. I saw them with my own eyes. I had proof. The texts, the witnesses, the videos. The judge saw it all, Daniel says. "You were looking for an excuse to divorce him because you were secretly seeing someone else, someone with more money." My blood was boiling. That's a complete lie. How could you believe him over me, your own daughter, Daisy? Believes him and your father, and I believe Daisy. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. Fine, whatever. They can believe whatever fantasy they want. Doesn't matter to me. Then something occurred to me. Wait, where are they living? Please tell me they didn't move into my house. The silence on the other end of the line told me everything, You gave them the keys to my house without asking me. Daisy needed somewhere to stay, and you weren't using it. It's my house. I didn't give anyone permission to live there. I was shouting now, pacing back and forth in my small kitchen. Daniel is a good boy. He's just had some bad luck. And Daisy doesn't have money for her own place yet. Then her husband should get a job and pay for an apartment, or they could move in with you and Dad. You have that spare room. We're not changing anything, Evelyn. What's done is done. Her voice was cold now. I have to go. The line went dead. I tried calling back immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. She had blocked my number. I was shaking with rage as I dialed Daisy's number. Hey, sis, she answered, sounding smug. Get out of my house now. My voice was deadly calm. You're just jealous because I got the man you couldn't keep. She smeared Daniel and I are happy. Deal with it. I don't care if you're happy, sad, or turning purple. Get out of my house. No. And then she hung up. When I tried calling back, I discovered she'd blocked me too. I tried calling my dad, but his phone went straight to voicemail as well. He blocked me before I even tried to explain my side. My entire family had chosen my cheating ex-husband over me. I sat down, hard on my kitchen floor, too stunned to cry. After everything I'd been through, after all the evidence I had shown them, they still believed his lies. And now they were living in my house, the house my grandfather left me, the house I'd poured my heart and money into renovating. Once the shock wore off, I got angry. Really angry. I called my lawyer Jack, who had handled my divorce. Jack, I've got a situation, I told him, explaining what my sister and ex-husband had done. That's easy to fix, he said confidently. I'll draw up an eviction notice giving them 1 week to vacate. If they don't comply, we'll report them to the police for trespassing and file a court order. And do it, I said without hesitation. 3 days later, my phone exploded with calls from my sister and parents. I ignored everyone. My mother sent a text. You have no right to scare your sister with police and court threats. You're just jealous of her happiness. I sent back a lengthy reply. I'm not joking or threatening. I will call the police and have them physically removed if they don't leave voluntarily. This isn't about jealousy, it's about property rights. That house is mine. Get out. A week later, Jack called with good news. They vacated the premises. He said I took the old keys from your mother and had all the locks changed. The house is secure. What do you want me to do with the new keys I gave him? My friend Rachel's number. Give them to her. She'll check on the place for me until I get back. When Rachel called me later that day, she was furious on my behalf. You wouldn't believe the mess they left. Dirty dishes everywhere, clothes on the floor, and guess what? There's a hole punched in the wall of your bedroom, I sighed. Take pictures of everything for insurance. I'll deal with it when I get back. Want me to clean up a bit? No, I said firmly. Don't touch anything. I'll hire professionals when I return. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how my life had imploded so spectacularly. My marriage was over. My family had betrayed me. Strangers had been living in my home. But despite everything, I felt strangely calm. I had my job. I had my house back. Had good friends who believed me. And I had 3 more months in the city to figure out what came next. 2 months passed and I was thrown into my work. The new branch office was coming together nicely, and I made sure to stay busy. I worked late, took on extra projects, and said yes to every happy hour invitation. Anything to keep my mind off my family's betrayal. Rachel kept me updated on my house. She'd drive by occasionally to make sure everything was still secure. I was grateful for her friendship. At least someone had my back. I hadn't spoken to my parents or Daisy since the eviction. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night angry all over again, wondering how they could choose Daniel over me. Other nights I'd feel a hollow ache in my chest, missing the family I thought I had. Then one afternoon my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. It was my cousin Mark, whom I hadn't spoken to in months. Evelyn, it's Mark. I thought you should know what's going on. It's about Daisy and Daniel. I gripped my phone tighter. What about them? They moved in with your parents after you kicked them out, he explained. But then Daniel started fooling around with Mrs. Garcia. You know that widow who lives across the street from your parents? I nearly choked. Are you serious? Dead serious. Your dad caught them in the act when he came home early from golf. There was a huge blowout. Your parents kicked Daniel out, but Daisy didn't believe him and left with him. I sat down hard on my couch. Wow. That's not all, Mark continued. Daisy came crawling back to your parents a week later. Turns out, Daniel emptied her credit cards, nearly $50,000. Zuzan, I exclaimed. How did she even have that much credit? She had like 6 cards. Apparently she'd been saving up for their dream home. Daniel maxed them all out and disappeared. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was exactly what Daniel had tried to do to me, bleed me dry. The difference was I'd caught on much faster. Thanks for telling me, Mark. No problem, families should stick together even when they're being idiots. He added, clearly referring to my parents and sister. After hanging up, I sat in silence for a long time. There was a sick sort of vindication in knowing I'd been right about Daniel all along, but I took no joy in my sister's pain despite her betrayal. A week later, my phone rang again. This time it was my mother's number. I hesitated before answering. "Hello," I said. "Evelyn, it's Mom." Her voice sounded strained. "How are you?" "Cut the small talk, Mom. What do you want?" There was a pause and I heard my father's voice in the background. "You were right about Daniel," she finally admitted. "He turned out to be not who we thought he was." "You mean he turned out to be exactly who I said he was? A cheating, lying, money-grabbing parasite, Evelyn. Please, Daisy is in a terrible state. She's heartbroken and in debt. We were hoping you might be able to help her financially." I laughed in disbelief. "Let me get this straight. You didn't believe me when I caught him cheating. You gave him the keys to my house without permission. You blocked my calls when I tried to talk to you, and now you want me to bail out Daisy after she married my ex-husband and let him rack up debt in her name?" "She's your sister," my father chimed in, having apparently taken the phone from my mother. "Family helps family, I repeated, my voice rising. "Where was this family talk when you were siding with Daniel? Where was it when you were calling me jealous and crazy? Where was it when you cut me out of your lives? We made a mistake," my mother said. Back on the line. "We're sorry. Sorry doesn't cut it, Mom. Not even close. So you're just gonna let your sister suffer?" she demanded, her voice turning hard. "Daniel took everything from her." "And whose fault is that?" I shot back. She knew exactly what kind of man he was. I showed everyone the evidence. She chose to ignore it because she was obsessed with him. Now she can deal with the consequences. "How can you be so cruel?" my mother gasped. "I'm not being cruel, I'm being realistic. You all made your choices. You chose Daniel. You chose to believe his lies. You chose to move him into my house. Now you can choose to fix your own mess." "Fine," my mother said coldly. "If that's how you want it. Fine. But remember this moment, Evelyn. Remember how you turned your back on your family when we needed you." I took a deep breath. "No, Mom. You remember this moment. Remember how you turned your back on me first. Goodbye." I hung up and immediately blocked their numbers again. My hands were shaking, but I felt lighter. Somehow, I'd finally stood up for myself, set a boundary that I wouldn't let them cross. That night, I called Rachel. "They actually asked you for money," she said incredulously after I told her what happened. "The audacity, I know. The worst part is they still don't really get it. They think I'm being petty or holding a grudge." "You're protecting yourself," Rachel said firmly. "There's a big difference. We talked for hours about my family, about the divorce, about my plans for when I returned home. It felt good to unload everything, to have someone validate that I wasn't crazy for feeling betrayed. Just one more month," I told her toward the end of our call. "Then I'll be back and can sort through this mess in person. I'll help you clean the house," she promised. "Well, sage every corner and exorcise all traces of Daniel and Daisy." I laughed, feeling genuinely lighter than I had in months. It's a date that night. I slept better than I had since this whole nightmare began. I dreamed of my house clean, renewed, purged of bad memories. In the dream, I was hosting a dinner party with new friends. There was laughter, good food, wine flowing. No Daniel, no Daisy. No parents looking at me with disappointment. Just me, happy and free. When I woke up, I realized that wasn't just a dream. It was a plan. A new beginning waiting for me just 1 month away. 6 months after leaving. I stood on the doorstep of my own house, key in hand. The 6-month assignment had been extended by a few weeks, but it was finally over. I'd been promoted, received a nice bonus, and had gained valuable experience. Career-wise, things couldn't be better. Now I just had to face everything I'd left behind. Rachel pulled up behind my rental car and hopped out with a bottle of champagne. "Welcome home, stranger." We hugged tightly. "Thanks for keeping an eye on this place," I said. "Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see inside." She wasn't kidding. The house was a disaster. Despite having been empty for 3 months, it still bore the marks of my sister and ex-husband's occupation. There were stains on the carpet, scuff marks on the walls, and a lingering smell I couldn't quite identify. "Did animals live here?" I asked, wrinkling my nose. Rachel snorted. "Just Daniel. Same difference." I walked through each room, taking inventory of the damage. The hole in the bedroom wall that Rachel had mentioned, a broken drawer in the kitchen, water damage under the bathroom sink. My beautiful home had been trashed. I should sue them, I muttered. You could, Rachel agreed, opening the champagne. But is it worth the headache having to see them in court again? She had a point. I took the plastic cup she offered and clinked it against hers. To new beginnings, then new beginnings, she echoed. The next day I called a cleaning company. They sent a team of 4 people who spent an entire day scrubbing, disinfecting, and deodorizing every inch of my house. It cost a small fortune, but it was worth it. I also arranged for new furniture, the sofa where Daniel used to sprawl playing video games while I worked gone. The dining table where we'd had so many arguments replaced, the bed where I'd caught him with his mistress and where he'd slept with my sister definitely thrown out. By the end of the week, my house looked and felt like a different place, like my place again. I was unpacking some new dishes when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my mother standing on the porch looking nervous. For a moment, I considered not answering, but I couldn't hide in my own home forever, Mom, I said flatly. Opening the door, but not inviting her in, Evelyn. Her eyes darted past me, taking in what she could see of the house. You're back. Yep. An awkward silence stretched between us. Can I come in? She finally asked. I hesitated, then stepped aside. She walked in slowly, her eyes widening at all the changes. I crossed my arms. What do you want, Mom? She sighed and sat down on my new couch without being invited. I wanted to see you. It's been months Daisy is seeing a therapist now. She's working 2 jobs to pay off the credit card debt. She's really struggling. I said nothing, waiting for the inevitable ask for money, but it didn't come. Instead, my mother started to cry. I'm so sorry, Evelyn. We should have believed you. You're our daughter, and we chose a liar over you. I don't expect you to forgive us. I just wanted you to know that we know we were wrong. I stood there watching her cry, feeling a complicated mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to say it was okay, but it wasn't okay. Nothing about what they'd done was okay. I sat down across from my mother. I'm not giving you money for her debts. I'm not asking for money, she said, wiping her eyes. I'm asking for a chance to make things right, to be a family again someday when you're ready. I studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation or deception. But all I saw was genuine regret. I'm not ready, I said. Honestly, I don't know when I will be, she nodded. I understand. A month after my return, I ran into Daisy at the grocery store. She looked different, thinner, with dark circles under her eyes. When she saw me, she froze a box of pasta in her hand. Evelyn, she said, her voice small. Daisy, I nodded, moving to push my cart past her. Wait, she called after me. Please? I stopped but didn't turn around. I'm sorry, she said so quietly, I almost didn't hear her. I was stupid. So stupid you tried to warn me and I didn't listen. I turned to face her. No, you didn't. You chose him over me. You chose him over our whole family, I know. Tears welled in her eyes. I've lost everything because of it. My savings, my credit, my sister, my self-respect. Part of me felt sorry for her. She was young, only 20, but another part of me remembered how smug she'd sounded on the phone, how she'd moved into my house without permission, how she'd accused me of being jealous. Have you heard from him? I asked. She shook her head. He disappeared. Police think he's in Canada now, I nodded. That sounded like Daniel always running away from consequences. Look, I said, softening slightly. I hope things get better for you, I really do. But I can't just pretend nothing happened. I know, she whispered. I just wanted you to know how sorry I am. I nodded once more and continued shopping. That night, I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine watching the sunset. My house was clean and peaceful. My job was going well. I had good friends who had stood by me through everything. As for my family, well, that was complicated. Maybe someday we'd find our way back to each other. Maybe we wouldn't. Either way, I'd be okay. I'd learned who I could count on, and more importantly, who I couldn't. I'd learned that sometimes you have to cut people out of your life, even family, if they're toxic. and I'd learned that I was stronger than I ever thought possible.